fans, use this radio station tomorrow morning for important news updates. Listen to Utah's most important radio station tomorrow morning from 5 to 9 on KSL News Radio.
Welcome back in to Cougar Nation, sponsored by Central Bank. Quick shout out to those watching on the YouTube live stream. You know that you can watch this show on your TV through the YouTube app live. And I must say, I feel like we're pretty entertaining. We've had multiple people tell us, we love just sitting outside the studio and watching you guys argue. So could be worth a watch down the road.
And follow us on Instagram, KSL BYU. We're ramping up our Instagram game. A lot of great content with our producer, Nate Slack, and doing some great stuff this football season. It's been a lot of fun. And again, subscribe to this show. If you missed our interview with Chase Roberts, the call-in from Hans Olsen, go subscribe to Cougar Nation wherever you get your podcasts. Let's get to what's trending.
Cougar Nation trending. What's trending up and what's trending down this football season.
We're still taking your calls, by the way. 801-575-8255. Last chance to get your thoughts in on Jake Retzloff, his performance, and anything else you want to discuss here on Cougar Nation. I'll start with what's trending up for me, Mitch, and that is total offense. Offensive production. That was a real nice display, over 500 yards, great passing, great rushing. And you might say to yourself, hey, it's Southern Illinois. Pump the brakes. Well, last year against Sam Houston, Mitch, you had 257 total yards. You had 3.8 yards per play, barely threw for 145 yards. The offense never looked good in the opener last year. They only looked good once or twice all year. So let's celebrate this because it doesn't matter the opponent. We've seen some teams have bad performances against inferior opponents. Would you like to have been Texas Tech? You're holding on for dear life? I know that they put up a lot of points and yards, but they barely won against Abilene. So the offense is trending up for me, and it was just nice to see them throw the ball around, run the ball well, trending up offensive production.
I agree. I have on the defensive side Jack Kelly. He led the team in tackles with 5 tackles. He had one quarterback hurry and half a tackle for loss. Jack Kelly was as good as advertised, and there were still missed opportunities where he over-pursued on a few plays. He is going to be really good, and just his speed, I think, kind of took me aback because it's one thing in practice to see it at field level. It's just another in a game when it's like you hate the person on the other side. It's just a different level of intensity. Jack Kelly, I thought, answered the bell and looked great. They're playing faster this year, this defense. And that was a thing that stood out, too, when you talk about trending up. The speed, maybe they're not the fastest guys, but they are looking like they're playing fast. And BYU's defense showed out well against Southern Illinois.
Trending down, it is nitpicky when you win 41-13 and you put up a lot of yards. I mean, I guess you could nitpick that bad call on the fumble. That was clearly a fumble. So trending down, the officials maybe, but for me, special teams, it just wasn't tight enough for me. A missed field goal. I didn't love what I saw in the return game. Special teams, Mitch, is so critical. You win and lose national championships based off special teams. And I loved what A-Rod said a week ago when talking about why they didn't reveal the quarterback. He just felt like every little thing to get an advantage, it all adds up. And at the time, I was like, oh, come on. That doesn't apply to the quarterback. That's ridiculous. But I think he does have a point. And special teams is one of those things where a muff punt here, a bad field position on a critical drive there, a missed field goal here. All these little things on special teams can contribute to a winning or losing season. That's got to improve. It's okay against Southern Illinois, but you can't keep having these special teams miscues when you get into Big 12 play because that could very well be the difference between going to a bowl game and missing out.
Great take. For me, trending down, quarterback run game. And look, a few of them were just busted plays. And
stopping the run.
Stopping the run. Stopping the quarterback run game. Controlling it, as Kalani put it. They got to do a better job at that. DJ Williams for Southern Illinois had 121 yards on the ground and 2 touchdowns. He was the one that scored for Southern Illinois, so they got to take care of that. Kevin Jennings, the backup quarterback for SMU, he can take off. He is a much better runner. Preston Stone is capable too, But remember, he's coming back from a significant leg injury, I believe. Last year, he's a starter. But, Kevin Jennings has played drives 3 and 4 in consecutive weeks. Preston Stone does drive 1 and 2. I expect more of the same. And if Kevin Jennings has success with that run game, maybe Rhett Lashley, the SMU coach, just says, keep going, Jennings. Keep running that. So that early part of the game, like maybe first, second quarter, kind of curious to see if SMU follows that same script and if they do design some quarterback runs to go up against BYU's defense. So they better be prepared and dialed into that because SMU will gash them because they've got a lot better athletes. But SMU, they have a weak offensive line. And I think this is a game, Matt, where BYU's defensive front, if you are truly improved, and this is a new look group that's going to get a lot more production like we saw against Southern Illinois, this is the week to continue having another 2-sack game, maybe 3 sacks. I want to see that against SMU.
We'll have nearly every offseason question answered after this game because we got some questions answered in Southern Illinois. But to your point, the defense, how challenged were they against Southern Illinois? And even offensively, that pass game looked great. The run game was improved. How improved are they? I think we'll get a real good sense of this against SMU. I don't think SMU is by any means some spectacular team. I know that there were some high preseason expectations for them. To me, I put that in the garbage can. After what I saw in Reno, those preseason expectations, file, drag, dump into the trash bin. I don't think SMU is anything special, but they still have talent to push you. You could very well lose this game if you're not doing things correct. Though I do like BYU to win this game. It's gonna be a fight though, and it's a fascinating game to see how BYU's improved in some of those areas that you mentioned.
I would be very impressed if Retzlaff came close to another 350-yard night. If he did that, man, we got to recalibrate our expectations, say this guy could be really special this year. So if he had a follow-up, because I think there's potential because SMU's secondary is weak. There is opportunities for
Chase say that.
Yeah, Chase even talked about it. They are vulnerable there. They had to retool their offensive line. They've shuffled a little bit with their secondary. They're dealing with some injuries there too, with their depth guys, not starters. But there's opportunities here. There's a lot to like in this matchup that BYU could be an upset. I think it's just the overall, I think SMU's got a little bit better depth, but I think that also BYU is a more disciplined football team. Only 3 penalties a week ago against Southern Illinois.
Nice to see.
SMU was a mess. They were a disaster in Reno, lacked any sort of discipline. So if BYU can maybe rattle SMU early, get them to make uncharacteristic mistakes and just kind of point fingers at each other at times they were doing that in Reno, that could bode well for BYU where they could spring the upset. And Cougar Nation will show up in Dallas and be there to support the team. And I got to think what happened against Southern Illinois is making some people say, okay, last-minute travel plans, let's get out there to Dallas.
The key to me, though, is you touched on the weak secondary for SMU. You have to continue to gash this Mustang team through the air. Here's what Jake Retzlaff said about the offense and the need for explosive plays.
We were ready to take shots. I mean, you asked those receivers, they were excited for this game plan for this week, and it just goes to show those guys worked hard this offseason, worked hard in camp to get that stuff down, and big plays make offense a lot easier. 13-play drives are really hard. Having one and scoring a touchdown is unbelievable. We ate up a lot of game clock in that drive, but they don't happen very often. And so be able to have those big plays to shorten those drives makes a huge difference.
BYU SMU Friday night right here on KSL. 5 o'clock kick. Pregame starts at 3. Big thanks to you, Matt. Big thanks to our producer, Nate Slack. Big thanks to intern Allie down at practice. This has been Cougar Nation, sponsored by Central Bank, serving Utah County for over 133 years with trusted service, modern technology, and personalized care. Big shout out to Central Bank. We'll talk to you next Monday here on Cougar Nation.